Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to those who I haven't met yet. Welcome back to our old members returning. And it's lovely to have everybody here. So it was such a turn from sitting quietly and then walking very quietly and then beginning back into the words. And you notice the change in the quality of experience when there are words going on. So you may have been sitting thoroughly involved in, well, your own words, mental word stream, or just the body and the sounds and the sensation of sitting together quietly with many people, which is very rare, huh? To sit in silence together. It's very intimate, actually. So, Dharma practice seems to follow a natural progression. It unfolds in certain ways, usually. There's always variation. First, there's the process of translation, and then there's transformation. So translation of the numbered teachings, for instance, the two truths, the relative and the absolute truths, the three times, past, present, future, the Four Noble Truths, the truth of difficulties, that they arise from desire and clinging, that there's a possibility that we can recognize their source. And the fourth of these truths, of course, is the ways that we go about undertaking to do that. Then there's the five aggregates and the six paramitas. You notice what's happening here? So coming to this tradition, which is not found widely in our culture, the Buddhist tradition. So most of us come to it on our own, not through our families, although there may be a few people here who have grown up around it. But we don't know the vocabulary. So we don't know words like samadhi. We don't know tathagata, or awakening, what that's referring to in this tradition, what enlightenment exactly is, what the paramitas are. And all of this is part of clarifying initially what all of this is talking about. So we can have this experience of beginning to meditate with a Zen group and have no idea what this is all about, and yet there's something that feels very true and very like a relief to have discovered this odd thing of sitting in silence together. So it's important that we investigate, as we clarify Dharma, we investigate with our own experience. We look into our own experience, what all these terms are pointing to. And it's not like we take a course and then we got it all, because there's endless terminology. This is a very old tradition, comes to us through a lot of different cultures, and so it's accumulated a lot of language, just as all of us have. So it's important that we ask questions. And when we don't know what a word is, what it means, ask about it. Engage about it. That's what all of so much of the literature is all about, is a student asking, what about this? What about that? So we're encouraged to ask about whatever seems alien to us, whatever seems strange or puzzling. And sometimes we don't even know, there's something that we are wondering, but we can't even know exactly what it is. So I just remember in the early days of practice, I didn't know what to ask. I just wanted to ask everything. You know, tell me anything you think I should be asking. And so one of the phrases that I like to use a lot for myself and with all of the members of the Sangha is, what do I mean by? And whenever I'm putting a talk together, I say to myself, what do I mean by that? Do I really know for myself, through my own experience, what this is referring to? And what's really interesting is that over the course of many years of practice, there's still more to be discovered about so many of the teachings. Even after we've delved into them deeply, there's always more. Just like there's always more in our life, because practice is all about this life. So this is part of what we recognize and we call transformation. It's this practice is very practical, and it brings about a real transformation in the way we perceive our world and the way we understand ourselves, and we find our way, the best way for us to use our predispositions and our skills, our genius. So translation and transformation, two words that point as words do. That's the job of words, is to point. So let's remember that. And so very often we can forget that when we hear terminology. We can think there's something specific to experience, rather than the word is pointing and saying, what do you know about this? What does this bring up for you? Where do you see this? The practice is, we practice with all of this, and our practice validates and encourages us to experience our own life. We're encouraged not to invalidate our experience, but to say, yes, this is what is going on here. And to trust our own experience and relax into being just as we are, even when we're confused. And that's a real turning point in Zen practice, is when you really relax about being confused. Where else could you say that? But it's true. It's true. Because anything we're confused about is exactly the path. If we say that this practice is all about clarifying our life and our experience, seeing into the nature of it, then anything we get confused about says, okay, well, what about this? How can I look into this? This is the path itself, step by step. And this is a face-to-face tradition. This is our tradition. There's nothing to believe. What we do is investigate. There are 2,600 years of teachings. We investigate them. We don't accept them because of the authority of some ancestral worthy. We look into, what does it mean? And a lot of the stuff that we read that's from the ancestors is all in translation anyway. So we're dependent on somebody else's clarity to have translated in a way that really reaches to us in our cognitive style. And we all have different cognitive styles. I mean, there are only so many, but what you may hear over and over again the same words, but somebody says it slightly differently, and you go, oh, I never heard that before, even though you've heard it a million times, but it didn't quite align with how you organize your mental descriptions of experience. So this moment, this experience is beyond counting. I started with all of the counting words. It's beyond counting. What are our reactions, our impulses, our aversions, our restlessness? It's beyond counting. All of it is our practice. Not to fiddle with it, but to really simply awaken to it in its fullness. Whatever is going on in us, in its fullness, moment by moment. These moments are beyond counting. However, there is one sacred number that I want to talk about tonight. The sacred number is 108. How many of you have come across that in your readings? 108. When I came across it, I asked over and over, so many people, what does that refer to? Because everything in this practice refers to something. I mean, it's very, very direct and real. So 108 what? What is 108? Everything in Zen practice is real and has reference to something that is not far off, but is right here. So what is 108 right here? Well, it depends on where you look. So I discovered that this number is not only found in the Dharmic religions, but it's also found in many other religions and practices. The martial arts, literature, and science. So here's a fun fact. The distance of the Earth from the Sun is about 108 times the diameter of the Sun. And the distance between Earth and the Moon is about 108 times the diameter of the Moon. Isn't that weird? There are a lot of instances, if you Google it, you're going to find a lot of different odd instances of 108 occurring. There are certain forms that occur in all kinds of contexts in this world. So this is a number that does. And in sports, the official Major League Baseball baseball ball. I don't know, is anybody familiar with it? Did anybody play baseball here? You know that stitching on the ball, which is like it's not like it's an infinity. 108 stitches. So next time you're at Goodwill and you find a ball, just start counting. According to Vedic cosmology, and Vedic cosmology is from ancient India, and it was before the time of the Buddha. 108 is the basis of creation and represents the universe in all of its existence. And it talks about it in a lot of different ways. And Hinduism holds that the outer cosmology, which is the science of the origin and development of the universe, should mirror inner spirituality. So that brings us back again to what's 108 pointing to in our own experience. Malas have 108 beads. I don't know if you've ever used counting beads. If you must have a nervous habit, I recommend a mala because you can do one bead, one mantra, one bead, one mantra. It's a wonderful practice. Many Buddhist temples in traditional cultures have 108 steps up to them. So what are these steps? What is the meaning of 108 as it pertains directly to our experience and our own practice? Not as symbolic of something that's off somewhere else and vague, but what is it mapping for us? Is as an instruction that we can practice with and be prompted by right here. Well, the path of practice is laden in Buddhist teachings with 108 temptations. So every Buddhist has to overcome 108 earthly temptations in order to achieve liberation, to remember our innate freedom. When we say liberation, we're remembering something that is innate to us. It's not something that we get because of our efforts, but we do need to awaken to it. We do need to remember. So 108 mind characteristics, notable as each moment of experience. These are referred to as defilements. But they're only defilements when we're ignorant of their nature, when we get caught and believe them to be real and permanent and independent of anything else. When we identify with this character of mind, we get caught in the defilements. So I'll begin with the way the number is compounded. We begin with the 6 senses: smell, taste, touch, sight, hearing, and consciousness. So right now, be aware of any smell. Be aware of touch. Any sensations of touch. How about taste? Sight. Sensations of sight. So open your eyes and close your eyes. Each is a different set of conditions. And hearing. And the 6th sense is consciousness, the activity of thinking, including what is perceived via the other senses. So one thing that's said of this is when awareness reaches sense impressions, that is consciousness. When awareness reaches sense impressions. So 6 sense impressions multiplied, we're going to multiply that 6 by 3. 3 feelings: pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. So, the sight that is pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. Taste, pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral, etc. We come up with 18. Every moment has a valence of pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. And I've often encouraged people to go through a day and remember periodically to check in. What's the valence right now? Pleasant, unpleasant, neutral, or some combination. Whatever's going on. And it's always there. You may not be aware of it, but as soon as you tune in, you're going to find it. Don't believe me, just practice with it and see for yourself how useful is it. So each experience is described as a combination of sense impressions and how it strikes us as pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral, and whether it is generated internally or externally, so times 2, internally or externally. What does it mean to be internally generated? Well, this refers to sense experience, sensual experience is internally generated, not dependent on anything outside. It's just always going on. Even probably in the sensory deprivation chamber, if you've ever floated in one, there was still sensation there, although very subtle. And externally generated is relational, and it refers to the sense of what comes up in our experience in relation to others and interactions. So this refers to ethical behavior, interactional behavior that we generate or experience with others. And so, you can have an exchange with somebody and come away feeling unpleasant. Maybe the breath was really bad, keeping it in the senses. Or it can just be something about the quality of their or your own voice, or what you said, harsh speech. So we can ask, is this experience, and now we come to the 3 times. Is it remembered from the past? Is it coming forth right now? Is it anticipated in the future? So this points us to where we are locating awareness at any moment. And you can practice with that also during the day, you know? You're thinking about something that happened so long ago. I got a letter today from somebody I was very close to. A number of years ago, we spent many years as fellow travelers, reminding me of so many things in the distant past. It was a definite blast from the past because it came unexpectedly. Suddenly there I was, 60 years ago. So we always look at, are we in the present? Are we right here as it is? Are we remembering or regretting or living past harm or hurt or kindnesses? Are we remembering kindness? Or are we anticipating, planning, dreading? Are we excited? Are we fantasizing? We're going to start sesshin tomorrow, retreat. What kind of anticipatory emotion is going on for those who are coming? I'm sure there's some. So altogether, if we combine these ingredients, they're always found in every experienced moment. 6 senses times 3, pleasant, unpleasant, neutral, times 2, internally or externally generated, times 3, past, present, future feelings. 108. And one thing about this that I love, that it demonstrates how in Zen, we always come back to something that's so like real and in the present moment and ordinary. We can, I have this experience, I've had it a lot, of thinking, oh, this is going to be very highfalutin. And then when it comes down to it, it's just simple and straightforward. So, why am I bringing this up tonight? Well, in Japan, at the end of the year, a bell is chimed 108 times in Buddhist temples to finish the old year and welcome the new one. And each ring reminds us of this moment, the possibilities of this moment for self-liberation. That this new year is beginning right now, offering us. The 108 earthly temptations a person must overcome, and we're going to have so many opportunities in every moment to achieve the innate freedom that without practice remains remote. It can definitely remain remote. Which might bring up another number, just for fun. I thought we would keep going with this number idea. To impress us with the possibilities for liberation that we have coming up being offered to us. That number is 525,000 minutes in a year, times however old you are or about to be. So I said, I'm much older than 60, but I said, okay, for instance, 60 years old. So that would mean that if I were 60, coming up, I would have 31,536 minutes to wake up. But then there's one more number, which is 3. And that's the number of nens in a mind, the number of mind moments in a minute, or in a moment, in a moment. Nen is, in Japanese character, it's read, it's one element of that character means the present, and another element means heart, mind, or consciousness. So it's said that each moment in conventional time is composed of 3 nens, 3 mind moments. That's another thing to investigate in your own experience, like what is that? Because it's just another way of saying, what is a moment? We always say moment by moment, but find a moment. It's like find a self. Does a moment begin? Does it end? So all this is a way to encourage you all to come to our New Year's Eve celebration. This is all an invitation. On December 31st, where we're going to have a chance to take a turn ringing the bell 108 times. And this is a ceremony that is being taken up in centers all around, everywhere now, because it's such a wonderful reminder to take advantage of every mind moment, whatever fills it. So joy, great. Confusion, fine. Despair, absolutely. You know, nothing that we experience is off the path. It's all the path. We stay steady, we stay present, we experience the wholeness of being a human being and working with it. And of course the teaching ultimately in Buddhism is the emptiness of all phenomena, meaning everything is temporary, everything is interdependently arising, right? And therefore, you know, we have suffering and we have nirvana. We have being held back and detained by our suffering ways, or we are liberated. We are self-liberating. So each comes and goes. All phenomena come and go. All forms come and go. But what about awareness? Well, look into that for yourself.
Please turn to page 5.